Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us in the third episode of Perfect Beer Talks. I'm Can, co-founder and CEO of the Pubinno. We cover every aspect of the beer industry, from the pub culture to history and modern beer, pub diversity. In this episode, we will talk about the digital transformation of the beer industry. And today, our guest is Jason Lambert, one of the founders of the Bees, a very successful e-commerce and SaaS company created by Anheuser-Busch, InBev. It's not a coincidence that a very disruptive company was born out of a very disruptive mind. Jason has a quite diverse background extending over not only beer, but multiple industries and in multiple positions. Let's go to know him better. Jason, I know it's hard for someone like you to introduce yourself briefly when there is so much on the table, but would you like to give it a try?
Yeah, I'll do my best. I think you hit on it in terms of the multidisciplinary background a bit. So I've been at AB InBev for about 6 years. So AB InBev is the world's largest brewer. So first and foremost, thank you for inviting me on. I mean, I'm super excited to sit and to chat with you for the next hour. I was really intrigued to see what you guys are doing at Pubinno and all that you're looking to execute, which is really exciting. So basically in the last 6 years, and I think this will be the crux of our conversation, I mean, we've been going through a digital transformation at AB InBev, and that's sort of been the key focus area for, how can we look at the supply chain of the beer industry and really level it up from both like a technology and a process perspective. Prior to that, I have an engineering background, so both undergraduate and graduate. I was obsessed with engineering and problem solving. At first, I actually started out doing engineering for long span bridges. So I was climbing actually the cables of, I think, about 6 long span suspension bridges to the tops of the towers and all that stuff. And I was doing effectively like reliability analysis of the suspension systems and long span structures, and then providing back recommendations to the owners of those structures, what they could do to rehabilitate and to basically avoid very large failure. I love that. It was super cool. It was, the only problem is it was a bit slow in terms of our customers were government agencies that oversaw and owned the structures themselves. So I was like, the projects ended up being like 3-4 years at a time. I then pivoted to do very similar work, ironically, but in the financial data space. Found my love and knack for product management. And then I was like, where could I explore sort of product management in a really innovative company that has an amazing legacy? And I met up with the folks at AB InBev, and it's just been an incredible journey so far.
Thanks, Jason. So welcome again. Cheers.
Cheers.
And what a coincidence that I also studied civil engineering in New York, and I dropped out of college and started my startup. And now both of us revolutionizing the beer industry. So I'm so excited for the today webinar. And let's start. Jason, in one of your interviews, you talk about how researching the seismic dangers of the bridges of New York has been an eye-opening experience for you. I especially loved you saying that if things are to be done right, oftentimes speed or jumping to a conclusion is not the best path forward. I also believe that all experiences are important, shaping consequences on us. As Abraham Lincoln said, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 hours to sharpening the axe. So, which idea drives you to start the Bees project, and what is the difficulties at the beginning, and how did you plan it?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I love the analogy there. I think it's so first of all, I think providing a little more context of what Bees is, and then I think diving into what had us start it. So Bees is an e-commerce and SaaS company that was created out of AB InBev. And really, it was as we at AB InBev started thinking about what digital transformation meant for us and meant for a large FMCG, we really started to focus in on this idea of putting being incredibly customer centric. So in our ecosystem of the supply chain, you know, we are the supplier. We brew the beer, we bottle, we warehouse, we distribute, then we sell and even merchandise. But oftentimes is the case, we actually don't do that directly to the consumer. We do that to the retailer that sits, you know, as part of that ecosystem. And so for years, I mean, we are incredibly close to all of these small to medium-sized businesses that exist around the world. And, you know, oftentimes they're an overlooked part of the ecosystem. And so as Bees thought about digital transformation, or AB InBev thought about digital transformation in and of itself, we thought, let's effectively move back to our core, which is customer centricity, with our knowledge of these small to medium-sized retailers, provide them the technology, put that in their hands, that they can now be empowered to place their orders for products that they love and their consumers love, and then change our operational processes. So, you know, we've been at this for Bees. The inception of Bees was approximately 3 years ago. We had done a lot of pre-work dating back to at least 2015, 2016. And so at the heart of it was, you know, at the very beginning, thinking about product market fit and what will our retailers, you know, really get value out of. It was that research. It wasn't jumping and throwing a product in the market and sort of rushing to scale. It was spending a lot of time to research our customer base, you know, understand and detail their problems, and then think about how sort of like the people, the process, and the technology all in this new ecosystem could impact them in a positive way, and then start to go execute on that, you know.
Actually, that's why I'm so excited to talk with you. You are always talking about being customer oriented, and you always emphasize the importance of being customer oriented and shaping the product according to customer likes. I'm completely aligned with you on this. At Pubinno, we are obsessively customer and user oriented. In fact, each week in our team, one of our teammates becomes a bartender in one of a pub which uses Pubinno technologies to understand better the user experience. We try to find the, how can I say, most effective and most funniest way to discover needs of our customers. So, Jason, what kind of method did you use to understand your customers, especially in the early stage of Bees? Right now, you have incredible data, I know, but in the early stage, what kind of method did you use?
Basically the same. So it's fascinating because, like, I remember reading an article years and years ago about Brian Chesky from Airbnb, and he got this advice very early on to do exactly what you're doing with your folks there, which is like, go stay with a host. You know, just go sit and stay with the host and experience what they experience. So for us, I mean, we employed the same characteristics. It is, look, if we truly want to understand them, it's yes, from a subjective or qualified point of view, we can say this is their pain point, this is their pain point, this is their pain point. But it was really, you know, not only visiting them, but doing sort of like the proper research around and documentation around, let's quantify, you know, areas within the customer journey that are significant pain points, and areas in the customer journey that are sort of moments of delight, right? Like in some moments they're having a great experience, in other moments it's very painful. And then what we can do is, if we document that really well and start to like quantify and be very objective about it, we can not only build technology to elevate the pain points and replicate the moments of delight, but then also change processes around those exact things and start to ensure the entire customer journey is being elevated.
I totally agree with you. Well, to be fair, those are great tactics and analysis to understand customers and the market. Loved it. But Jason, the wants and needs of the customers are constantly changing, especially after the pandemic. The market is more dynamic than ever. It accelerated the speed of technological change and adoption. I always say, for example, in our team, I always say our biggest rival is tradition. And the pandemic turns every tradition inside out. And the future takes everything by storm. As we see, for example, as Pubinno in 2021, we had a record growth result of this. I'm pretty sure that your story must be similar. And so how do these changes trigger technological innovations in our industry?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I don't know, if it necessarily changed what we were doing or more sort of provide like an accelerant behind it. So, I mean, from our perspective, we were, always, we were thinking about this pre-pandemic. I mean, we launched Bees in late 2019. So, what it enabled us to do was certainly go to market and have our customers adopt, a digital experience, I think, at potentially a faster clip. But moving from that sort of, ability to go to market with no information and no products, which was like all the research phase, then moving into a phase where you have a product and that product is now sort of has trumped your research overall, because now you're starting to get data and understand and gain insights from like, what are your customers doing? What are your customers ordering? When are they ordering it? Where are they ordering it from? And so immediately, as after the early adoption took place, we started to be able to gain all these valuable insights, and it just allowed us to be much more agile than we were before. And by the way, it was like at the same time when we needed to have a pulse in the market, as obviously like COVID created a pretty fluid situation on closures and openings and all that stuff.
And I think one of the most critical things in here, in Bees, you are providing not only AB InBev portfolio to your customers, right? All kind of products.
Yeah, so I mean, look, we sell a significant amount of AB InBev's products. Obviously, we're starting to dabble in where it makes sense to expand the portfolio. I think for us, most critically was always coming back to, our brands within AB InBev are absolutely incredible, and they are incredibly valuable to our customers. And so is there a way for us to, take a look at ourselves and really drive that experience of, getting or acquiring those brands in a much more seamless way? And so, what digital allowed us to do was effectively up the customer experience, providing those brands, but also providing a whole host of, other services that really help the customer themselves grow.
I see. Well, I believe core of our business will be around these technologies and innovations. But looking at the further future, there are many exciting things that await us. This year, we have been introduced many new concepts like Metaverse, and personally, I have been focused on blockchain technologies. And also, as Pubinno, we work on this. We have new surprises for this year. But most exciting of all, what do you think about the relationship between hospitality industry and Metaverse?
Yeah, this is to be quite candid, like probably outside of my field of expertise. I mean, I'm like an e-commerce junkie and more of like a SaaS junkie. I think important in any macro trend is the ability and the question of like consumers love bonding with their brands. And I'm wearing my my Budweiser vest here, and I love Budweiser. And we talked about some of our favorite beer brands offline. And so I think anything to facilitate that match between consumers and consumer experiencing their brands, I think is a value add to the community at whole. Now, in terms of metaverse, I mean, I don't know what the implications will be. It seems as though it's an exciting field and a burgeoning field, and I think we'll see as the future progresses.
Very interesting innovations, I think, on the way. Jason, for example, in our industry, you know, there's a trend for the hard seltzer and alcohol-free beer. Is it also same growth trend in the bees portfolio?
Yeah, I think, I mean, for us, you know, for AB InBev's core business, I think what you'll hear is that, you know, we want to go and we want to become agile enough to go where our consumers are going. So certainly seltzers and non-alcoholics are key to that portfolio. And I think as you look at the strategies of Anheuser-Busch, Grupo Modelo, or InBev, you start to see local consumer demand reflective of those broader trends. So what we ultimately do as bees is, you know, really take those portfolios and put those portfolios in front of our customers for, you know, a much, I guess, easier way or lower barrier to entry to try new brands. Now, for us, as we're launching innovations, it's a much more interesting, you know, avenue to start flowing and making customers aware of what innovations we're creating through digital, obviously removing then the restriction of having physical visits and those types of things. So we're always keeping a pulse in the market. I think that's one of our, as bees, our distinct advantages is being so close to AB InBev and AB InBev subsidiaries, is that we're constantly putting relevant brands in front of our customers, and you know, those relevant brands are obviously what is being demanded on the consumer side.
I see. Jason, also one of the most impressive aspects of the technology is that brings new meaning to data, as we know. What makes data meaningful for you, and what are the advantages of the instant data? I mean, real-time data. And what kind of analysis offered to your customers?
Yeah, it's a super interesting question. So, I mean, we went from a world of like very offline sales to now online and digital. And so what we wanted to focus on, especially early on, was what are the foundational building blocks of any sort of e-commerce experience? You know, obviously the buzzwords of like AI and ML come up quite often. And so, you know, one thing that we've done was, again, looking back as like, say, recommended orders, you know, as any customer logs in to the experience and starts looking at what's recommended to them, it's very, you know, the problem itself, which is, what am I as a customer? What do I need to order? Because my orders are so large, I'm sometimes forgetful. There's so much going on. I'm so overwhelmed. That problem is a problem at macro scale. Any market, any country, any region, any channel. Now what we can do is take that macro problem and apply, because we have all this data and infrastructure and technology, apply a very personalized response to each and every one of those customers. And so like the product recommendations across both SKU and quantity will be specifically around, you know, things like order history or what's trending in the area. And I think that's one way that we really wanted to leverage, you know, solving a customer pain point with all of our data and infrastructure and creating a very personalized experience. And it's something, by the way, that every other large e-commerce player, and to be honest, like technology product in the market that's very good, does very well. It's like, how do you create from this macro problem, how do you create a very personalized response? And I think that was like one of the foundational building blocks to what we wanted to achieve.
Exactly. For example, in Pubinno, we are tracking real-time data, especially the service quality of the beer, in the terms of hygiene, the temperature, freshness, and averagely, after our customers use our products, their quality score increase around 30-35%, and is triggered to boost the sales. So as you said, data is so important, and real-time data is game changer. That's an excellent take on the capabilities and possibilities that data can bring on the table. As Elon must say, disruptive technology tends to come from new companies. Jason, I also want to talk about the century and traditional companies besides the innovative and young companies like us. We work in a B2B model as a startup with the enterprises, and mostly it has been really hard to be in same page. You created a culture which an AB InBev is a giant and is powered by innovation and technology. And now you disrupt the industry with the bees. What were the challenges and how did you manage them? I'm really curious about this.
No, so first of all, I mean, it's a hat off to AB InBev's culture. So it's like we always say within AB InBev, dream people culture. It's have a big dream, do things that are huge, because the effort to dream small is the same effort to dream big and reach for the stars. Then the idea is if you have a big dream or ambition, you can bring in incredible people to go and attack and try to solve the problems and work toward that dream. And then it comes down to a culture. And I think that's what AB InBev's secret sauce is, this culture of ownership and providing, bringing in amazing people, having those people be owners of, the projects, the initiatives, the company itself, and really driving towards, finding personal and professional satisfaction and driving towards those big dreams. That culture in and of itself was like a fertile breeding ground for innovation. And whether that's the product innovations, like the consumer product innovations that are happening within the company now, or the technology product innovations that are happening and then even spawn certain companies like these. So, there was obviously a lot of learning along the way, but, first and foremost, for this to happen, we had to have an executive team that was open, innovative, and sort of, ready to change, a board that was ready for that, senior leadership across the company that was ready to embrace the challenges. And coming back to those three, those dream people culture, it was everybody within the company has that mindset. So if you show up and you're like, I have a dream to transform, all of sales in country X onto digital, and then we're going to transform all of our operations. In other countries, it might be like, man, you're crazy. In ABI, I was like, cool, like this sounds great. Let's sort of work through that and work toward that, and start thinking about the right milestones and operational execution. So I think that sort of AB InBev's culture was already like there, and it's no surprise to me, quite frankly, that it was this spawned out of that.
I impressed it. Whoa, there are so many things to unpack here, I think. And it's wild how you transform a more than a century-old company in this way. Way to go. I assume that our audiences also have some questions for you. Hey guys, you can write your questions to the chat right now. But before the Q&A session, there is a thing that I'm eager to learn from you, Jason. Peter Thiel says in very famous book, From Zero to One, to focus on the product, not the sales of the success. So for the bees, what is the North Star metric for the bees? And if you could measure the success of the bees, just one metric, what would it be? And how did you determine it?
I mean, for us, it's super easy to answer. And I think you're totally right. It's like, we talk about this a lot, from 0 to 1, and what's the most important metric, because typically you have like businesses who might be driving on revenue or, some like very quantifiable, almost like P&L number. For us coming out of this, and again, it was all centered around, we have this dream, we have the people to go do it, we have a culture of ownership. Bee's mission and objective is to help our customers, these small to medium-sized retailers, help our customers thrive. So for us, the one leading indicator, especially early on, was customer satisfaction. Were they more satisfied with us as a company working through Bees than previously? So, did our NPS score, which is a very, a great metric to sort of quantify customer satisfaction, did that rise throughout the period of transformation and the like? And the answer wholeheartedly was yes. And then once we found that, it was like, let's go.
Is it personal to ask what is your NPS? For example,
to be honest, yeah, I don't know. It depends on the market, and it depends on the market. It depends on the channel. I mean, we're so many different like companies. It depends on a whole host of things. So to be honest, like with the rolled up number, I actually slips my mind at the moment, but we were able to increase it quite significantly across the board.
In Pubinno, our average is 78.
That's good. That's like Starbucks level.
Yeah, we are the future of the draft beer, Jason.
Yeah.
Today I learned so many things from you, and I'm sure I listen this record many times. I will listen, but two things for me is very important from your sayings: culture of ownership and dreaming. I think it's the core of the innovation. And thanks again. Now there are some questions from our audience. Let me check. Tuba asked a question: how your NPS score changed after the Bees? But I think you only measure the Bees NPS score, right? Not only whole company.
Yeah, so I mean, it went up basically post implementation and continues to increase the more our customers are involved with ordering full time. So I think that full digital transformation was incredibly important for us, because moving from offline to online, we obviously hypothesized that we would be able to elevate the experience from end to end, in general. Once you start to see the transformation take place, you see the NPS scores go up. You actually see further and further customer acquisition. So like our monthly active usage went up, especially through word of mouth within the community. So again, it's something we're incredibly proud of. It's something that we have as our our finger on the pulse of all the time, and it's one of our company's missions.
Because your speech is so fruitful, I have so many questions. I have to select some of them. All right. From Megan Stein. She's asking, do you think technological innovations differentiate according to cultural needs?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think there was a whole host, obviously, of conversation when we started saying, would what we do in one country or one market translate to another country or another market, depending on, obviously different infrastructure, different cultural changes, different, languages, you name it. The ultimate, for us, the ultimate realization was the small to medium-sized retailer, whether it's in a developed market, a developing market, an emerging market, almost has the same problems. Like they are just really underserved by their supply partners, and this was a view into ourselves as well. And so putting them at the center, whether it's in the United States, Mexico, Brazil, South Africa, Tanzania, putting them at the center and saying, look, again, thinking about that experience with their suppliers and their business operation and their consumers, let's go solve a lot of these problems with this technology. Of course, there's personalization and localization and all that stuff, but in a macro sense, it was like we were able to go and solve that across the board. So I think, we're all human at the end of the day. I think we all have, the same sort of wants, needs, and problems to be solved. And so I think what we saw is we were able to solve quite a few of them, that transcended cultural and geopolitical boundaries.
All right. The next question from Mark Carlton. He said that InBev acquired Weissbeerger in 2017. And what is the main function of the Weissbeerger in that time? And now, what is the relationship with the Weissbeerger and bees?
Yeah, so Weissbeerger is one of Bees offices. So we have Bees has actually 3 offices: one in New York, one in Campinas, Brazil, and one in Tel Aviv. So Weissbeerger is our Tel Aviv office. So we're incredibly excited. We have a super talented team there. They contribute to both the product and data analytics and do just a phenomenal job. So it was, it's great to have them as partners. But to be honest, I don't even consider them Weissbeerger. I consider them Bees, and of course they have their culture and their history. But we sort of all formed Bees together. So
so there is no more hardware, right? In the Weissbeerger, there is no more hardware because at first they're building hardware.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't have all the information on that one. I just know that we work together on Bees from a software and analytics perspective.
Okay, 2 more questions from your team. First of all, from Fatih Ayhan. He asked that, where did you suffer the most during the change process? How did you achieve to create desire on the customers to join the change?
Well, we suffered a lot. It was, I don't want to tell misconceptions and say that it was a very easy journey. But I think first and foremost, again, it was like we have buy-in to go do this and to get people sort of like in the boat and run the boat with you. Look, change is hard. I mean, speaking on a personal level, like as humans, like tend to actually not love change. And so I think within the organization too, if we didn't have the elements of dream people culture and sort of enabling us to frame like, look, this is our dream as a company. This is where we believe Bees fits in the dream of the company. We have the people and the amazing colleagues to go do it. And this culture of ownership to sort of take ownership of, we are a great company, but we can be even better than we are today. That will supersede the sort of human innate want or desire to not change and to keep things the same. So I think it was just, from our perspective, brick by brick, step by step over the last, 5-6 years, and especially through the acceleration over the last 2 to 3. But it's those elements of a company that are absolutely key for this to be successful. And then it's just problem solving. So it's like, as long as everybody's willing to put assumptions translate those assumptions into hypotheses and test those hypotheses and be willing to be right or wrong, that's when you have the formula to really, go do something special.
Exactly. I totally agree with you on this point. So last question from Juan Barcelo. He says that, do you think the days are numbered for the wholesalers who used to sell and deliver products to retailers whom will certainly acquire from platforms such as Bees?
No, I think, to be honest, I mean, this would be a personal opinion of mine, not like a stance of the company. But I mean, what we've seen is looking at the ecosystem, and everybody plays a very critical role in the ecosystem. And the idea being, how can we elevate the experience within the ecosystem so that the whole industry grows? I mean, our want and desire is to grow the beer and the beer industry. And if we are doing that in a way that removes, administrative effort or friction, enhances customer experience, puts a much more applicable portfolio in our retail outlets, then that's an absolute win. And I think the supply chain plays, everybody in the supply chain plays a very specific and special role in making that happen. We just believe through technology and process change that we can elevate the entire supply chain.
All right, Jason, your perspective on success is pretty eye-opening. It was an incredibly fruitful talk. Thank you for sharing your time and taking digital transformation of the beer industry with us. It was like myself to the mirror, actually. So thanks again, and also thanks to our audiences. Let's listen us, and I hope you enjoyed the third episode of the Beer Talks. Hopefully we can meet at the next ones. We will have more surprise for you.
Great. Thank you for having me. Thanks for what you guys do, and thanks for everybody listening. I really appreciate it.
Bye-bye. See you.
Bye.